So now let's talk through leadership focus and those changes. And I like the analogy of, it's like water. Water has a wide range of temperatures, anywhere from 33 degrees to 211 degrees, and it's still water. But at 212 degrees, it becomes steam, and at 32 degrees, it becomes ice. And so it's almost the way to look at each of these levels of growth and stages of growth, is that there's a wide range of within each one, but at some point you kind of have to cross over this line, and you have to say, I'm going to go from ice to water, I'm going to go from water to steam. And these are just super sound bites. We'll get through them really quick, and then we'll talk about them. But really at stage one, and this is in that startup stage, you have to know what needs to be done. If you're trying to build something, you have to know how to build it, and then you have to find a customer that's going to pay you for it. It is that's simple. That's the basis of all businesses. That's where a Bechtel starts. That's where any ABC construction starts. So then you get to stage two, and now we're in this 15-person range, and so you've got, and it seems kind of funny. I mean, depending on where you're at in the stage of growth, you can look back and go, well, 15, that's not very many people, but that's a really hard stage. You've got to go through there and trust somebody else to be that expert on site and build the project the way that you would build it, to take care of your customer. The quality is there. You're trusting, safety, and you don't have a safety program. You don't have a safety director. So you're trusting this person that's out there running the project to go do it. And that's incredibly hard to do. You're probably starting to let go at this point in time of some of the accounting functions and trust that that's getting done. But at the same time, you have to actually understand what's going on, because you actually need the banking relationships, and you're probably getting your first line of credit around this point in time, and they're starting to ask you more questions, because it's just past that credit card line of credit where you just sign your name for it and they do a personal credit check. Now they're asking for your financials and things like your work in progress report or something like that, and you're learning a bunch of new things, but yet you have to rely and trust somebody else. So kind of stage three, in that 50-person range, you have to learn how to, now you may have probably two project managers, an estimator, and you have to learn how to manage them to produce really consistent outcomes given all the inconsistencies. Customers are inconsistent, projects, suppliers, people, the environment, just the weather is inconsistent. And you have to learn how to manage people and get consistent outcomes despite all those inconsistencies. You got more and more handoffs to work through. So now you start to get into stage four, 150 plus people. You're starting to really align these people and these functions. Like we talked about, probably there's primary functions depending on the company, is project management, estimating, and accounting are the three primary things you're working to integrate. And getting the people, processes, tools across the whole company, you're starting to see that flow, the handoffs between estimating and project management. Those are, by the way, never ever perfect, but this is a stage four, is about where you start to really intentionally think about that handoff and start to put systems in place for it. So at five, you've got those things happening, and now you're starting to align the team around very common vision and values and long-term strategies that are required for sustainable growth. The same type of work that sustained you at stage two definitely is not going to sustain you at stage five. And then you're really starting to systematize your talent pipeline for key functions. So now you're really starting to think about, how do we develop a project manager, not hire a project manager, not battlefield promote a project manager, but literally build them from scratch, whether that's bringing somebody out of the field or out of a college program, and then starting to develop them into your company and teach them what's going on. And stage six is where your leadership focus changes, and now you're about sustaining the business, or businesses, including the governance structure, probably a board of advisors, your strategy, succession, scalability in all conditions, and everything is just becoming more systematic rather than task oriented at this stage in time. And you've delegated, again, you still have people that have leadership focus at level 5 and level 4 and level 3 and level 2 all throughout your organization, but these are delegated down. So that's a lot, but those changes occur at each stage. So that's really what we're going to talk through next. Anything you want to add to this one before we move on to the growth through those stages?
Well, I think the thing that really threads through all of them, I mean, there's many things, but certainly when we talk about like in stage 5, right, that systematizing the talent pipeline for people coming in, we just have to remember that those people, no matter who you are, there's going to be training through all 6 of these stages, right? Even a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company probably needs training on the new functions of the iPhone. So
Right.
there's training that happens at every one of these stages. Uh, there's professional development. We don't necessarily call it that all the time, but professional development, that deep development at the level you're at. That happens a lot in, stage 1, right? You know deeply what it is you're trying to do. And then the other one is that leadership kind of look at things, and how do you help people to see what that next step might look like, right? So as they're, you get to that level 2, that teaching and trusting, right? That's more of a leadership focus again than it is of a professional development focus. So those things will be flowing in and out of this the whole entire time, but don't think training goes away just because the company's gotten really, really big, right? It's
Yeah,
they
that's a great point. Let's get to this point where you and I have argued over the years. So I started my career. I came up through the field. So to me, I'm at that stage 1. I know what needs to be done and how to do it. I'm an electrician by training. I can make the lights come on. And so then, as I progressed up through my career, and leading up to starting the consulting business, you work up, and it's processes and it's structure, and it's a lot of those things. So first starting the consulting business, I was very heavily focused on, if you have the processes in place and you have the structure in place, then a lot of other things work out. And then you start to see the advantage that strategy, really plays, especially when you get into those higher levels of 5 and 6, and the strategies of working, upstream with the customers, working directly with the project owners, getting involved with large programs, the large construction programs early in the programming stage of it, and getting involved at that level. And so then I started to switch. I'm going, okay, well, it's not just processes and structure, it's a strategy. That must be it. And then Sue comes along, and she's talking about organizational development, and which is training and development. And organizational development is the broad term. We can unpack that more, but the broad term for all of the training and development and very intentional ways of bringing people through the entire organization up through their retirement masterpiece. And so then we're arguing back and forth, because I'm arguing strategy supported by systems and structure, and she's arguing organizational development. And then finally, you won the argument by saying, "Well, Dave, who comes up with the strategy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess it's the people." Okay, so then if we don't have the right people in place to have the strategy discussion and make the decision, I'm like, "All right, good, you won." Which is why you went back to school and got your master's in psychology after, what, 2.5 decades or so in leadership. Is that about right?
yeah, and it's funny because the more you work inside organizations, right? You look around and go, there's more to what's going on here, right? It's
Yeah.
not just the processes and procedures, because the processes and procedures and the strategies that stick are the ones that uh whether it's management, whoever you want to call it, the ones that they're willing to stand behind. So the ones that the people push are the ones that other people do. So it's like, huh, it is all about the people, and how they sit and how they behave and what their behavior means to the rest of the organization.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So I guess I love how you approach things. We got to the similar spots in very different ways, but that argument was fun. And then now you see how that's playing out, because really over the next 15, it's going to be probably 15 plus years before we start to reverse the trend just in demographics that we have for the retiring baby boomers, which is really what you're saying, is the retirement of people in the 45 to 65-year-old age range that have had enough experience and made all the mistakes they need to make to know what needs to be done and still have enough runway to go do it. And we just have a lot of a dearth of those people for the next, until, like, I didn't want to say 2030, before the demographics even start to turn around. And that's just at the age range aspect, never mind attracting them to the industry and getting them the experience. So So, anyways, that's you'll hear that theme.